Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video for My Virtual Bookkeeper. And do you find yourself just drowning in receipts, or do you find yourself ever wondering, like, should I be keeping that? Should I be tracking that? If so, then you are not alone. This is a really big topic in the world of bookkeeping. And what's important to know is that bookkeeping is not just about tax preparation. It's a big component of it, but it's also important because understanding and tracking things throughout the year actually helps you make better business decisions. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about exactly what you should be tracking, and we're going to make it really simple so that it's very practical and easy to implement in your day-to-day life. So, let's get into it. Here are the four things that really you should be tracking in your day-to-day life if you are a small business owner. And the first one is going to be you should be tracking your income, right? So sounds pretty obvious, but if you are a real estate agent, for example, and you get a commission check, we should be recording that. We should be writing that down somewhere in a place where we can look at how we're doing for the course of the year, right? Not just going based off of our bank statement. That would be probably not the most efficient or effective way to be looking at that. So any payments that you receive, any checks that you're depositing into your account, we just want to be keeping a tab of that, keeping a tally of that. Now, obviously, if you have a bookkeeper, if you have somebody who's keeping track of that, then that's going to show up on your income statement. All right. So the next thing we want to be tracking is our expenses. And I know that's a really big category. So let's simplify this for you. There's a couple of key ones that we want to just pay attention to, right? So first and foremost is we don't necessarily want to just throw all of our receipts into a shoebox because it's really hard to sort through, and there's much easier ways to do this nowadays. So obviously, what you can do is we've got apps on our phones now that make this really simple. There's an app called uh, oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, we could just simply take a picture of it and save that on your phone. Is better than just throwing it into a shoebox. But having some way of recording what it is and what it was for, if you are in a profession where you have jobs, being able to have some indication on what job it was for helps you really determine the profitability of each job and whether or not you're making money on a job or losing money on a job. So definitely don't just throw your receipts willy-nilly. We want to have some structure, some organization to it. And there are several apps that can do this on your phone if you choose. Or, of course, if you have a bookkeeper, then have some sort of communication system with that person to make sure that things are being coded and recorded properly. Um, so other things to consider would be any credit card or automatic payments that are happening. So those are if you're looking at statements and you're seeing things on there like that, then just know that those receipts probably aren't automatically being stored. We want to have some way of distilling that into the same categories that we mentioned before. We want to know what are those expenses really for? What are they going towards? And so you can use Excel, you can simply write those things down. Or, of course, if you've got a bookkeeper, you can make sure that we've got an accurate communication system with that person to make sure that things are being recorded properly. Um, and then we want to be thinking about the big one here is mileage and travel. So if you are in an industry or in a business where you're driving a lot for your work, then those miles add up. And that's expenses that you could be deducting for tax purposes, but it's also the cost of running your business that sometimes is hidden. We don't always think about it because we're just driving. We don't see the wear and tear on our car every day. Now you're going to feel it when you have a repair that you need to make, or you got to get new tires. But tracking all those things is useful, certainly for taxes, but also for us to know really, when we're going to need to replace those things. So there are apps that you can use here. MileIQ is one that you can use. It makes it very easy, especially if you use your car both for personal and for work. You can distinguish on that for the app. The big thing is that you feel good about the system and tool that you have to track that. Next up is assets and equipment. So these are um, a lot of time they get confused with expenses that we have for the business because we're probably not thinking too much about like, well, is that an asset or is that just an expense? So the big way that you can distinguish between that is thinking about, is this something that I'm going to be able to use a lot for over the life of my business, like say a computer or maybe even a vehicle, or maybe even a printer? If so, then chances are it could be considered an asset, and we would record that. We would report that differently um, for taxes or for the expenses of a business. So that's something that you can just give yourself a rule of thumb. Now, if the cost on that is pretty minimal, say under $500, then probably you're fine just expensing it. Every business has their threshold, so think about what that is. And you can certainly meet with your tax preparer and find out if there are certain tax benefits around that, around booking in a certain way. But that hopefully gives you some guidelines there. And then last one really is owner's pay or how much you're paying yourself, right? So if you already have your business set up and you're writing yourself checks for the business, we do want to track that. We do want to know how much we are paying ourselves out of the business. And at the end of the day, if we're bringing in enough revenue to be able to continue doing that. So all of those are things that we could be tracking, and hopefully that gives you a sense on some simple ways of doing that throughout the course of your day to day in your business. And of course, we have a handy dandy deductions checklist so that as you're running your small business, if you are wondering what you can or can't deduct over the course of the year, be sure to download that in the description, and we will see you all in the next one.